Good morning. This is the Blaine's World webcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also listen in on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. You get more information and find out about past shows at our website, which is behind me, www.blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. And each week we focus on positive news and information about people and organizations in both Western North Carolina and throughout the country. And toward that end, it's my pleasure to introduce Lillah Schwartz, owner of Yoga Lillah with Lillah and Transformation Yoga Trainings and Yoga Therapy. And Lillah, you can feel free to wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this. So you want to wave to them? Okay, and that's Lillah Schwartz. And as you'll see, she's this amazing woman who I've had the pleasure of having on my show a couple other times, but thank you for joining me tonight.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Okay, and I should mention that Lillah is a and what is it? IAYT, what is that?
It's the International Association of Yoga Therapists.
Okay, and
so I am certified, yes.
She's a certified yoga therapist. Lillah is recognized as leader in yoga for back care, author of the successful book, Healing Our Backs with Yoga, and she has also produced several wellness courses for Yoga U Online. She pioneered the method that she teaches in North Carolina from 1981 to 2009, and continues to study and refine her understanding of how to apply yoga for all levels of students and their conditions. She is also a registered yoga teacher with the National Yoga Alliance. Based on her personal experience with injury and extensive background in anatomy and physiology, Lillah has for more than 40 years shared the science and spirit of yoga wisdom with thousands of students and teachers, helping them connect with their healing potential to overcome pain and enjoy a more vibrant and authentic life. And so, Lillah, we mentioned 40 years here. So you started what, when you were 7 years old? Is that when you started yoga?
Yeah, that would have been nice. No, I actually started when I was 28. And I started mostly because I had physical pain. I had back pain. So that's why I started doing yoga, and it certainly helped a lot. And then over the years, I uncovered more and more about what my back pain was about, and I continued to study yoga and apply the anatomy training that I had as an undergrad to my yoga practices, and started developing my own way of approaching back pain, which currently today is the same way as a good physical therapist would approach back pain. We have some other colleagues in Asheville area. Libby Hensley is got a book out for herself, and she's a PT, and she teaches exactly the same principles that I've been teaching at for many, many years. So it's nice to see that that knowledge is out there and available for people.
Now, before you got into yoga, you said at the age of 28, 29, what had you wanted to be when you grew up?
You know, I did not know what I wanted to be when I grew up.
Join the crowd, by the way.
I didn't know. I think what happened was my high school counselor suggested in interviewing me that I might go into physical therapy because I loved physical activity, and I loved the body and movement. I was a horsewoman. I rode horses and showed jumpers. I was a competitive swimmer and springboard diver. So I was a very physically active young woman. And it was a good call. And even though I did not end up teaching physical education in a high school setting, I do teach physical education to my adult learners. And so ever since we moved to Asheville, 1920, no.
not 1920.
1981. Since we moved to Asheville in 1981, I have been teaching other adults, peers, and women younger than myself and older than myself.
Now, in terms of teaching folks, and we'll talk about something you're doing, which is very exciting, but for the most part, until recently, you were teaching one-on-one or small group classes. Is that how you would teach it?
I did run my own studio for 33 years, from 1981 till 2016. Sold the studio, but continued to teach weekly classes. And of course, with the pandemic, I moved online and developed a lot of these online courses that I'm offering now. but I do still do some in-person local classes at a couple small studios in the area.
Now, do you have a preference in terms of teaching? So you could teach one-on-one, I guess, you could teach small group, you could teach online. Do you have a preference as to teaching? Do you have a favorite method or favorite way?
My favorite way is with a small group of about 12 or 14. And the reason why that's my favorite way is because I'm a very interactive instructor. So there's a lot of yoga right now being taught, and because there's so much trauma awareness in the life arenas right now, there's so much trauma awareness, teachers aren't touching their students anymore. And the way I was trained by my teacher is that if somebody needed help understanding a movement, going over and touching them to encourage a movement in a certain direction was recommended. And so that's not happening so much anymore. And that kind of, it leaves a big gap in what the student can gain. And so when I say that, and then I'm offering online courses, it kind of sounds like a contradiction. But the difference is because of my own background and training and my own skill, I can see what's going on the computer and know what needs to be said. So it's just, it's sort of thing you have to kind of watch one of my YouTube classes or something like that and see and try and follow along and see if my wording kind of matches up. And then when I, of course, when I have somebody in front of me, like if I were having you do a pose right now, I would be able to see your one shoulder's higher than the other, or your palm is turned this way instead of that way. So how you're engaging the shoulder is different. And I can see that on the camera with Zoom. So, you know, the bottom line is I love teaching. Any format I get my hands on, I will adapt to that format, whether it's one-on-one on Zoom, a group on Zoom, or one-on-one in, you know, in my studio, or a class, a small class.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I never would have thought it would be possible until we had the pandemic. And then I work with a trainer. I'll give a shout out to her, Michelle Coonan, and we do it via Zoom. We do it FaceTime live, one-on-one. And to her credit, I'm still working with her on that basis. I find it easier not to have to go into her studio, but it can be done. You know, and like you said, she can see me. I guess maybe not as well, but she sees me fine and it works, you know. So you have the same experience?
Right. Yes, I do.
Well, do you actually work with people then on a one-on-one basis online at all? Have you done that?
I have done that. Yes, I have quite a bit, of course, during the pandemic, not so much right now, but when I do work with people, either just like you're recording this interview today,
Right.
I record for them on Zoom and I give them a copy of it so they can watch it at least once at home. They might not watch it forever, but at least so they can remember what it is we did and use that as a basis for their practice.
And the pleasure of it is, I guess, for your folks who work with you, is that they don't have to come out, you know, they can do it at their convenience to their home when they want. But you mentioned something I think very significant about the work you do. So it's not just, you have tapes they can watch, but when you're doing the online course, it's a very interactive thing as opposed to just watching a tape. And that's a big difference.
Big difference. So the course that I'm offering now is called Yoga Wisdom, Vibrant After 50. So it's all the skills and techniques that I've been building up over the years. And certainly in the last 3 years, I added more on that because now I'm 72. I'm not 39 anymore or 40 or 50, I'm 72. And so I know how the body changes over time and how the practice has to change to keep you in a healthy balance so that yoga can really work to, you know, help you, your balance, help your mobility. How much mobility is enough? How much strength do you need to balance that mobility? Those are the sorts of things that an interactive session can do, because I can present say a special way to work with the shoulders, and then I can watch the students working with their shoulders, make suggestions, and help them to really understand how their body works so that they can utilize the tools really well for themselves.
Is this the first time you taught that course online?
Actually, I gave a shot at this course 2 years ago, a 13-week course 2 years ago, and I learned a lot doing that, and I've changed it and improved it greatly. So in this course, every week there's 1 hour with me online live every week. In that, there'll be a 30-minute practice where I introduce something important about the practice of yoga, and then we'll have discussion, Q&A, that sort of thing, to help people find clarity, to help them find clarity about how it really works, how yoga really works, and how they can build their sensitivity and work with their own bodies in a really positive way.
It's interesting you mentioned it's for over 50. How did you come up with that idea of over 50? What was the thinking?
Well, it was really easy at the time. I was over 50.
Okay, join the crowd. Yeah.
Yeah, I was over 50. And my practice has changed. And actually, between 50 and 60, my practice didn't change that much. Once I hit my mid-60s to 72, that's when my practice has had a bigger change. And that's when it's become more clear about how to balance my practice. So I do a lot more breath work and meditation. I do a lot of breath work and meditation. And I did a deep dive and study of breath work with somebody by the name of Patrick McCowan. He's from Ireland. He wrote a book called The Oxygen Advantage. And it's brilliant. His work with breath is brilliant. And I have used his understanding of breath and some of the classical Ayurvedic teachings that I've learned from Dr. Vasant Lad, and combined those understandings into a really powerful breath practice in which I've been able to regulate my own blood pressure and not have to go on blood pressure medication, and also alter my brain chemistry. So I've done a lot of research in the past 3 or 4 years on breath, on fascia, on bone density, yoga for bone density. I've really covered these topics really in depth, and I think I have quite a big toolbox for people to tap into with me during this 13-week course.
Now, let me ask you about the course, which sounds kind of cool. In terms of people taking it, male or female, anybody
Male
can
or
take it?
female. Mm-hmm.
How about a level of experience with yoga? Do they have to have had yoga training, or what's your thinking?
My thinking is that they should have a sense of a certain level of activity that they participate in. So if they're hobbling along waiting for a hip replacement, I wouldn't say the course would be really great for that.
Right.
Right. And that would be a one-on-one scenario, because I'd have to like narrow the focus of yoga down to just a couple simple things that would help that person have a successful surgery. And certainly I've done this for people many times in the past as well. But I think that as long as they are fairly active, and most people have a mild exposure to yoga, they've had some yoga class somewhere. It's been so popular. So if any kind of exposure to yoga as a start would be great.
Now, you mentioned exposure to yoga and the people have had it. Nice thing about this course, though, they don't have to be in the Asheville area. They can be anywhere.
They can be anywhere. I have a couple people signed up right now from Georgia. I have a student from the state of Maine who's signed up for the course. So yeah, they can be anywhere. And
Again, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, and part of my target is, yes, the average person who really wants to be more masterful in their understanding of yoga and how they apply yoga to their bodies and their lives, but also for yoga teachers, because I have so much information. So this course is also set up to be a CEU course for anybody who's a Yoga Alliance registered teacher, and pending for IAYT. So I'm also going for CEUs for yoga therapists as well.
Now, you mentioned the course over 13 weeks. What time does it meet?
The set time for the weekly meeting is 5 to 6 p.m. on Sundays, Eastern Standard Time, right? And then we have a midweek 90-minute class, which can, some of them will meet at 4:30 on Wednesday, from 4:30 to 6 on Wednesdays, and some are open for them to watch anytime. So the live class is always going to be at 4:30, but they can watch, there's 8 videos that make the basis for the course that the course is wrapped around. So they can do those at any time during the week.
So the nice thing, if you sign up for it, even if you miss one session, you can at least see it again on tape afterward.
Oh, absolutely. Every live recording is recorded and will be part of their course platform. So if they have to miss a Wednesday night live class,
Right.
they'll be able to watch it come Thursday afternoon. They can go ahead and watch it then and not miss out on the Q&A session on Sunday at 5 o'clock.
When does the class start?
Starts January 7th. We're going to start the new year out with a bang.
Okay.
So it's going to be an orientation, a Zoom orientation on January 7th. And it's an opportunity for us to get to know each other a little bit. I'll have a survey out for the students to explain what their goals are, any particular joint issues they may have, places where they feel compromised or need help. So I'll get familiar with them in advance. And then in that live session, we'll go ahead and check their camera position. So again, online works as long as the teacher can see the student. So the student has to get that camera in the right spot and have lots of lights on. And the request is not to wear any black clothing, because if they wear black clothing, then I can't see.
The actual course itself, how do you get experience in terms of being taped on teaching? Was that a change for you, that you're going to somebody's going, and is that what happens? You have somebody taping these sessions for you?
I tape them myself on Zoom and upload them to Vimeo. So I do that myself. You know, Blaine, I had made my first DVD was actually a VHS, and I made it in 1989. And I made my second one in 2000. And then since then, that time, I've done 5 courses for Yoga U Online. So it's not like, and that of course had a professional cameraman, but I'm not unfamiliar with how I have to demonstrate for the camera, right? So this is just sort of a natural extension of all of that. And really it's my opportunity to connect with people and give them the support they need, and to also have the joy of teaching.
Now, the nice thing about the course then, so it's not just for people who have back problems, but it can benefit people who have back problems, but it can be for anybody who wants to get into a yoga training, I guess, or yoga experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. We'll talk about alignment principles and the basics of what to do to take care of your back. We're also going to study fascia and learn why fascia is important, and is it too tight or too loose, and how to balance those things. We'll learn about the alignment of some of the basic geometry of some of the yoga poses. We're going to study about bone density. We're going to study about breath, and integrate that with also, you know, yoga, the spiritual aspect of yoga. What about the subtle body? What about breath? What about the ethical disciplines in yoga, and how do those play out? And how do we recognize them in ourselves so that we have a deeper relationship with our own heart? It's really about heart. It's about getting that relationship with our heart and living from a heartfelt place.
And so this will be going over, what, 13 weeks, I think you said?
It's 13 weeks. Yeah, 13 weeks.
How does somebody sign up?
They can go directly to my website, to yogawithlillah.com. That's LILLAH, yogawithlillah.com. And right on the first page it comes up, you'll see the course announcement there that starts in January.
Okay. And talk about, aside from this course, if people want to study with you or learn more about you, you mentioned you're still doing one-on-one, I guess, work with people if they want, or you're also doing small group instruction. How do they sign up for that? Is that also at the website?
Yes, that would go through the website for local classes, and there'll be a link there. There'll be a link there for my West Asheville yoga class, which is going to meet on Mondays for the whole winter season starting in January. And then I have another group on the east side, a small group that will start in January also, and they'll find that on my website.
And in addition to that, the online course, How many folks can sign up for that? Is there a size
Yeah,
limitation?
there's a size limit, I have it set at 18 right now, and I'd be fine with 16.
Okay, so very exciting way to actually get involvement. If you don't come to the West, you don't want to come to West Asheville or East Asheville, you can be at your own home or whenever you want to take this course.
Yeah.
Lillah, I guess I met you first, or I did the first show with you years ago about the book you wrote. And if you have it handy, it's just, I'll give a plug for it, or I'll mention it very favorably, but it's just a phenomenal book. And why don't you hold it up if you have it handy?
Sure, I do have it handy.
Okay.
It's Healing Our Backs with Yoga, and it's really a practice guide. So I give the information you need to get started. And then there's 22 sequences that you can follow that are anatomically balanced. And just following the instructions, I give hints and cautions along the way. And there's a million pictures. There's all kinds of pictures of poses, a million pictures.
If you would
And
give a shout out, if you would too, to the person you did that with, because I thought it was beautifully done, the book. And the
Deborah Morgenthau, a shout out to Deborah Morgenthau. She worked for years for Lark Books as an editor. She was my editor for the book. And then Maggie Powell was the designer. She designed the book and the layout for the book. So yeah, I'm really grateful to them. And I'd like to also mention, I'm going to do a shout out now to a colleague of mine, Kat Metlock, who's in West Asheville Yoga, just did her book on Free Body. I think the name of her book is Free Body, and I've been reading it recently, and it's a lovely companion to this book. So she goes into a lot of sort of anecdotal stories about fascia and trigger points and how to work with your body and what different things mean. And I think it's a lovely compliment to this book. I want to give that shout out to Kat because she's done a great job.
And by the way, share that information with me, or let me get in touch with her. I'd love to talk to her about her book. But again, back to your book, I have to give you a compliment, because not even necessarily being interested in yoga, I found it fascinating. It was more than just a yoga book. It was just a lot of good information, useful information. So I want to thank you for just a really terrific job on that book. Do you see that book? Do you see another book down the road?
Well, I actually did write a booklet on breath. It's not an official book, but it's 38 pages.
Okay.
So and that's another course that I will offer again in the spring online, is the breath course, because I just feel like it's so powerful. Yoga is so vast because we can go from the physical body, we can get neuromuscular balance so the joints are healthy and they move well. We can release stuck places in the body. But deeper than that, we have to learn what we're doing with our breath and how we're focusing our mind or not focusing our mind. So it's like when I meditate now, it's not mind and body, it's heart, mind. Because anything of real value goes through the heart first and then comes to our mind. And so when you study the vagus nerve, polyvagal theory, all that stuff that's out there, it's that automatic nervous system response. And if we're stressed and our sympathetic system is too agitated, then the parasympathetic system, the resting system, can become atrophied. And that's actually what happened to me 2 years ago. I had not done enough activity, and I was very silent. I know, and it's okay to say that, my husband has Parkinson's, and it was learning how to be with his new disability and how to balance that. And I became very internal and silent, and I actually atrophied a little bit. And when I did that, I lost control of my breath in such a manner that my heart rhythm started going off. And the way I got my heart rhythm back in balance again was by using pranayama, developing my exhalation and my inhalation, walking more, vocalizing more, and I was able to kind of bring that back. And it's all of this breath work is deeply rooted in the traditions of yoga. so we can innovate. We can innovate and get adaptations that help us to get to the same goal without living in the ashram. But we can, and then our ashram, we take it with us. It becomes our own inner experience.
You mentioned that you noticed that something was off 2 years ago. How did you notice that, or what brought about the realization that you need to do something differently?
I felt it. My heart was in trouble. My snoring had got very bad. And my heart was in trouble, and I could feel it beating in my chest. It was kind of like the irregularity was like having a heavy book on my chest all the time. There was just a pressure there that wouldn't go away. And it took 2 things. I got a CPAP machine and started using that, which is, its own journey. How to find a mask
Right.
that you can be comfortable with. It's definitely a journey. And I started doing the breathing exercises. I read a book by James Nestor as a shout out. It's called Breath, The Lost Art of Breathing. James Nestor, he's very popular on YouTube and other places. And he was a journalist, and he did it's a wonderful read. And some people, when they get to the point where he talks about taping your mouth shut at night, and they put the book down and they're gone because there's a sense of panic that comes up that we're going to suffocate if we tape our mouth shut. And what I can tell you is that I've been taping my mouth shut for 2 years.
Okay. And is it a difference?
And even if I don't use my CPAP machine, even if I don't put my little nasal plug in place, I still tape my mouth shut.
What about one other question, Lillah, if I can? For the courses you're talking about, are there some people who can't take them or benefit from them? For example, if they're handicapped or they can't get on the ground, they can't lie down. How do you work with those folks?
That would be someone who this course is not for.
Gotcha.
If I'm going to work with somebody like that and help them from the subtle body and the energy work, that would be more of a one-on-one, or it'd have to be a really specific group, all needing something similar. So I don't know if you remember, but I taught yoga for MS for 10 years. I had a regular class every week for 10 years, but all different variations of multiple sclerosis that people were working with. And I have a mentor that I worked with for many years. He's in California. He's 90 years old now, and he's been a wonderful mentor of mine. He has a book also. He had MS himself and had a wonderful book for people called Yoga for MS. His name is Eric Small, and people can still find that. It's still available out there if they know people who need that kind of more subtle approach to yoga.
Okay, so again, what I'm hearing you say is that yoga can benefit all people, but each situation is a little bit different. Like I said, so the one year that we'll just recap. The upcoming course starts what date again? January 7th, is it?
Yeah, January 7th. And we're going to learn how to move energy, release blocked energy, cultivate bone muscle tone without injury. We're going to learn how to maximize our rest and restoration, and how to use our breath. And I think these are tools. It's like a master class because there's a lot of information for people to embrace. And I'm really looking forward to having a group of people, men and women, who are interested and motivated for self-care. I'm extremely motivated for self-care. Once I decided I needed to heal my heart, that was a wake-up call, and I just did what I needed to do to make that happen. And so people could gain a lot from this, and especially yoga teachers, because then they can really contribute to their classes and help their students much better.
And you even mentioned something I think kind of interesting, that even though you've been teaching yoga and been involved with yoga for a bunch of years, you can always learn, and I think it's interesting. Your journey is a good example of it, that you're always taking new courses and reading and learning more stuff. So even if you're a yoga teacher, that doesn't mean you can't pick up something new.
Well, and let's thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that, because let's mention the word vitality for just a minute. If I'm not drawing in new information and excitement about life, then I'm not growing. And if I'm not growing, I'm not drawing life energy through me, I'm going to get lazy and depressed. Right. So I think as far as longevity is concerned, you had your newsletter that went out this week had that thing about dementia, and they all say cardio and this kind of stuff. But it's important to have something that excites you, that you can become enthusiastic about. And so to keep growing is to remain vital in my book. So I have a lot to share with people, as I mentioned earlier.
And what I hear you also saying is that it doesn't sound like you're going to be retiring anytime in the near future.
Oh, God.
What I call it, Lillah, when I moved to Asheville, I said I didn't retire, I rewired, the concept of rewirement, not retirement. But yeah, you don't see yourself taking it easy in the next couple of years, decades?
It's hard to say. There's a lot of responsibilities on my plate, so it's hard to say exactly. But I do thrive when I get to teach, because it helps awaken the excitement of healing and vitality in my students, and it helps improve their lives. So I'm going to do it as long as I can.
And what's cool about it, you mentioned that the friend of yours, 90 years old, and he's still doing it, and I love listening to you and looking at your enthusiasm, because, you look like you can't wait for this course to begin.
I'm looking forward to it. It's true.
One final time, if we can hold up the book also, I just mentioned, great book, even if you don't have back pain, but healing our backs with yoga. But I'm telling you, I benefited from it, and I didn't have back pain at the time. And so that book is available, I guess, all traditional places, but also through your website.
Right, Amazon or my website. And I understand you're going to be doing a giveaway with this book in the future.
Well, thank you. So if they listen to the get the BLAINESWORLD blog, they can see about that. But really great book. So get a hold of that book. But the best bet, go to the website if you want to find out information about upcoming course, Lillah, anything else. Website one last time is
yogawithlillah.com.
And you're in for
Lillah.
And you're in for a treat if you work with Lillah. Lillah, it was always a pleasure. Speak to you soon. Thanks.
Thank you. Namaste.